Faites appel, s'il vous plaît, monsieur le greffier.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent. Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Gruville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Southern.
Présent.
Madame le député Labby.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Carrier.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Luce. Madame le député Dublé.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Morel.
Présent.
Madame le député Hegera.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ayer.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alves.
Présente.
Madame le député Gardner.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Gorse.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le député Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Joseph.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Balash.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Coles.
Présent.
Madame le député Poré. Monsieur le député Wall.
Présent.
Madame le député Miles.
Présente.
Madame le député Scott.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Renouf.
Présent.
Madame le député Curtis.
Présente.
Madame le député Felton.
Présente.
Madame le député Binet.
Présente.
Madame le député Jeune.
Présente.
Madame le député Miller.
Présente.
Madame le député Howell.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Binet. Monsieur le député Ferry.
Présent.
Madame le député Kovac.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Curtis. Madame le député Ward.
Présente.
Madame le député Wilson.
Présente.
Madame le député Stevenson. Monsieur le député Andrews.
Monsieur le greffier.
Prions Dieu. Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi les gouvernements et les puissances de la terre pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom, nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir les cœurs et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent et de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toutes leurs délibérations étant accompagnées de ta bénédiction réussissent au bien et au soulagement du peuple qu'il t'a plu de commettre à leur soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par les mérites de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant « Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite dans la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous induis point en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal, car toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen. Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier.
Défaut.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Défaut.
Madame Betty Stevenson.
Excusez. Les États sont constitués. On behalf of members, I'd like in the usual way to welcome His Excellency to the Chamber this morning. There are a number of subordinate actions under B. A number of matters have been presented or laid as described on the consolidated order paper under section C. lodged propositions. The following propositions have been lodged: Draft Employment and Discrimination Jersey Amendment Law P78 Amendment, lodged by Deputy Ferry. Draft Children and Young People Independent Advocates Jersey Regulations, lodged by the Minister for Children and Families. State of Jersey Development Company Pre-Sales Provision for Residential Development and Pre-Lets Provision for Commercial Developments, lodged by the Council of Ministers P88. Draft Children and Civil Status Consequential Amendments Jersey Amendment Regulations P89, lodged by the Minister for Children and Families. Promotion of Political Education P1, lodged by Deputy Andrews. Reinstatement of Senators P2, lodged by Deputy Miller. There is nothing in the order paper under E, F, G and H, so we come to questions. A number of answers have been lodged to written questions. Now, oral questions, and the first oral question is asked by Deputy Curtis of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Further to written question 380 from 2024, will the Chief Minister provide specific examples of expenditure on the digital government platform in 2024, including details of the expenditure on consultancy and the managed service mentioned in his response? And will he outline the project budget to be how it will be spent in 2025?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. The digital government platform progressed well during 2024, and the total expenditure for that year was 1.41 million and was focused on three key projects: the digital registration cards, which moved into final testing and will be available to the public in the first half of this year; the integrated appointment and queuing system, also in final testing, which will enable islanders to make and manage appointments online initially with employment, social security and housing; and further development to the Tell Us Once project for when islanders change in circumstances such as their address and need to tell various departments. Specialist staff with high levels of technical skill are needed to deliver the complex projects, especially at user testing stage. Their expertise has resulted in enhancements and stronger security, sir. In 2024, £290,000 was spent on consultancy roles such as systems architects, business and business analysts, and £826,000 was spent on the development of specific projects by technical experts. These, as the Deputy knows, are managed services.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, supplementary question.
Thank you. I thank the Chief Minister for providing the response, and I note that the figures provided by him for the total years shows a significant increase in expenditure between his response on the 4th of November, where managed services spent 526,000 to what is now 826 within only 2 months. But I would press the Chief Minister to be more specific in how that money has been spent. £826,000, sir, is a huge amount of money, and I would like the Chief Minister to be specific in how that money is broken down and how he can assure us that that was value for money on those specific projects.
So I can't break that figure down here and now in the Assembly, but I'm happy to provide a written breakdown to the Deputy and discuss an analysis of that later if necessary.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chief Minister. Would Chief Minister please clarify if all this expenditure is now managed by the newly created Department Digital Services, that he has a political oversight?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Would Chief Minister advise when the Digital Services as a standalone department with a dedicated chief officer has been created?
It's just a name change, sir. It's the same department.
Deputy Sutton.
Could the Chief Minister explain why he hasn't got a breakdown to the figures that he knew he was going to refer to in his answer?
We can provide a breakdown, sir. I don't have a detailed breakdown in front of me, but I'll provide it in writing. It is a very lengthy piece of information. There'd be hundreds of lines of detail, so I wouldn't have time to read it all out now.
Supplemental question, Deputy Sutherland?
Yes, not having time to read up an answer to a question is really a poor excuse for not having the facts at his fingertips, which he should have had, since he knew he was going to rely on the figures he was quoting. Does the Chief Minister think that this is what he's produced is an inadequate answer?
I'd be happy to provide the information, sir, but I think we're constrained by the time allowed for oral questions.
Final supplementary, Deputy Curtis.
Thank you, sir. And in written question 380, the Minister answers that the funding for the project in 2024 was reduced by a Treasury-led reprioritisation exercise from £2.194 million to £1 million and £51. Today, the Minister has told us that they spent £1.41 million in 2024. Could the Chief Minister advise how the budget increased £400,000 post-Treasury reprioritisation, and how the Assembly can know what is actually spent on any project, given the numbers so quickly change?
So if I recall correctly, sir, we were the budget related to the consultancy and the managed services costs. There was an additional to that, sir, which were part of the bigger budget, were in internal costs of approximately 300,000. The budget, the capital budget for 2025 is reduced to 600,000. So I think that the spread of the expenditure will work out about to where we wanted it to be, so over the course of the project.
Very well. We come to question 2. The Deputy Jeune will ask of the Minister for Housing. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether the veterans who live at Princess Elizabeth Court have returned home following the extensive damage caused by Storm Ciarán, and if not, will he clarify when they were likely to be able to do so?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir. My understanding is that all but one of the residents at Princess Elizabeth Court have been able to return home so far. We have asked Hague Housing for an update as to when the last can go back. I haven't yet received that. I'm hoping to hear back from them later today, and of course I'm happy to share that information with the Deputy or any other interested members when I receive it.
Deputy, supplemental.
Yes, sir, thank you. There are concerns regarding the quality of repairs and the habitability of the houses, even though the tenants were required to return. Could the Minister outline what steps tenants could take if they're faced with this situation?
Indeed, this is something that we've been aware of for a while now, including actually going back to before Storm Ciarán. My team have been in constant communication with Hague Housing, and myself and the Minister for Home Affairs have met with the Chief Operating Officer of Hague Housing and, in fact, the residents as well. I understand that the Environmental Health Department are paying close attention to this and in contact with residents frequently. So I would urge them to maintain that communication with them, directly with myself on top of that, if that's helpful, if they need quicker answers or responses from environmental health. And that's, of course, all well and good, but I would like to assure members that in the long term, in ensuring that the support that is offered to these military veterans, let's not forget that, they're people who we owe a special duty towards because of the Armed Forces Covenant, that we as a government need to work with Hague Housing to find a better arrangement for them on island to better maintain their homes rather than, as has too often been the case in recent years, them kind of forgetting about those homes because they're in Jersey and they're a UK charity rather than a Jersey registered social housing provider.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Minister, for his answer. Minister mentioned that he was aware about problems at this home before the storm. I assume it's more than a year. Would the Minister advise to the Assembly what has been done in practical terms, what difference happened on the ground, and what his plans, what specific areas he is planning to address and when?
Well, so just to reiterate the last point I made, is to remind members that they're a UK charity, they're not a Jersey registered social housing provider. So in the last year since the storm, The priority has been to work with them and do what we can to enable them to make the necessary repairs to those homes as quickly as possible so people can go back home, and many now are back home. But we have also been engaging in discussions with Hague Housing and Andium Homes about forming some kind of partnership between them, whereby Hague Housing can benefit from the expertise and the access to contractors that Andium has, so that they can respond much more quickly in future when there are problems with maintenance. Because one of the problems last time round is that they just weren't familiar enough with the island and the way we do things here and who's actually available to physically do works on properties. So I hope that if we were able to sign off that kind of arrangement, which there is interest in, then hopefully that will improve things in the future as well.
Supplemental question.
Absolutely. I'm got a bit concerned that, if I understood correct the Minister's answer, because it was a UK company, the Minister has limited ability to influence and to make changes. Are there any other UK providers? And if Minister planning to put something in place that the tenants from the UK providers will have the same support and assurance from the government as the island providers?
Well, so they're not a UK company, they're a UK charity. It's important to make that distinction. I'm not particularly aware of a large presence of UK companies running large housing estates in Jersey. I know that there'll be smaller investors around about the place, but they would be covered by the private sector arrangements through the rented dwellings licensing scheme, through the residential tenancy law. But I would encourage those, if there are others beyond Hague Housing that operate with a social ethos, as it's meant to be, that they have an open and willing partner in Andium Homes who are happy to partner up with them to help them manage their properties and provide much better on-island services.
Final supplementary, Deputy Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister believe that he has sufficient tools to ensure independent social housing providers deliver quality services if dialogue fails?
No, to be perfectly honest, but I reiterate, Hague Housing is not a Jersey registered social housing provider, so even if we had the framework of social housing regulation, it still wouldn't necessarily apply to them unless they went through the effort of registering as a social housing provider. In the absence of establishing a social housing regulator, which is something this Assembly has voted against previously, my team are working with the non-government owned social housing providers to update our frameworks of working with them. In particular, there's one that we're hoping to have a new memorandum of understanding with soon, and that would, in the absence of a full-blown regulator, would provide better accountability for government to make sure they're meeting their obligations.
Well, we come to question 3 that Deputy IA will ask of the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister fully aligned with the strategy proposed within the recently published Future Fit Retail Roadmap R190-2024, and does he consider the cost of its production to be justified? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm pleased to say that I am aligned to the Future Fit Retail Roadmap. It's been a ministerial commitment of mine to design and publish such a roadmap, and it addresses the rapid shifts in customer behaviour and technology that are affecting our retailers. This roadmap was produced entirely in-house without the use of any external consultants. We are fortunate to have a very strong expertise amongst our sector officers, and they have engaged heavily with members of the industry in developing this strategy, including, of course, as well as individual retailers, but also organisations such as Chamber of Commerce and Hospitality Association and so forth.
Supplemental question, Deputy A.
Thank you, sir. The roadmap, it has been described in the media as having been turgid prose, being beyond rubbish, junk and laughable. How does the Minister respond to these accusations? Thank you, sir.
I would ask those people to actually read the roadmap. Thank you.
Deputy Tadier.
So is the Minister saying that the person who made those comments, and I'll read them, which is that this is beyond rubbish, and to think we have paid civil servants to write this junk, Does he think that that person hasn't read the retail strategy? Is that what he's telling the Assembly?
It strikes me that that's possible.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yeah. Would the Minister consider the counterfactual that actually we have an experienced businessman in Jersey who has read it and he simply thinks that this is as he says it is? And would he seek to consider engaging with both that author who wrote those comments and the wider community to see if in fact the retail strategy could be enhanced?
I always am happy to engage with any business people in the island, and I do so, and I believe in this case the person being spoken about I've engaged with in the past as well. I think if we're talking about a letter in the paper, I think actually most of the comments that were there were about a frustration over a lack of deregulation that was proposed in the roadmap, and so that would be around things such as minimum wage, etc. Now, this government is clearly committed to increasing the minimum wage. So having a retail roadmap which spoke about the opposite would be contradictory and highly problematic. It's not what this roadmap is about. This roadmap is about talking about the retail ecosystem. It's about recognising that retail is private businesses selling things to the public, and it's for their own private gain, but that the public sector has a role, particularly in the environment of the town, and can provide an enabling role for those retail businesses to thrive upon that. It's also about enabling those businesses to access greater technology, access better data, and access better skills training so that they can have much higher performing businesses at the same time. So I would suggest that actually this retail roadmap, when read with the right intent, speaks to what the public sector can actually deliver. Beyond that, it is absolutely up to the private sector to make sure that their businesses thrive.
Deputy Renouf.
Thank you, sir. Perhaps coming at it from a slightly different angle, is the Minister at all concerned by the negative reaction from the retail sector to the retail roadmap?
Absolutely. I'm always concerned, and it did come from a perspective. When I read some of the commentary, I did sit there and think, hold on a sec, this is about the government saying we can play a really key role in helping this ecosystem work in these areas. Other areas, the businesses have to take responsibility for themselves. And it felt to me as though just because certain particular elements of regulation weren't addressed in the roadmap, such as the minimum wage, which obviously it couldn't be, that the roadmap was, from some people's perspective, turgid, as Deputy Ayer said earlier. I strongly disagree with that. This is a retail roadmap which is actually about trying to help those businesses to give them a better platform upon which to thrive. We have a really good town centre in Jersey. It faces challenges, but it is doing much better than most other town centres. There were comments that I read in the paper which were just unrecognisable. I would say go to any town of 40,000, 50,000 people in the UK and show me a thriving town centre in the way that Jersey's is. Jersey's has 7.5 million people footfall. That's absolutely superb. Has extremely low crime. That's absolutely superb for retailers. My officers, upon my instruction, have gone and spoken to retailers in the UK. They spoke to five or six. All of those 5 or 6 said, we hadn't thought about Jersey. When they looked at the stats around our town centre, they suddenly said, hold it, we should be looking at Jersey. Those 5 major retailers are now looking at and interested in potentially moving, opening stores in Jersey. That's because they see that the town centre has a huge amount to offer. But we need to work with the parish as government and work with those businesses to make sure that the town centre is an even better place for the future.
Supplemental question, Deputy Renouf.
Yes, so does the Minister have anything to say about the criticisms that some of the bigger issues were ducked? For example, empty retail space, improvements to the material infrastructure of the town and so on.
And it's when I hear comments like that, sir, that I think people haven't read the retail roadmap. The retail roadmap absolutely addresses empty retail spaces, absolutely addresses town centre infrastructure. Those are very much in the retail roadmap. So anyone who comes to me and says it doesn't address those issues, in my mind, hasn't read the document.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank Thank you. I hope the empty spaces will be addressed because I was really surprised to see most of the Queen's Road of the left-hand side completely empty for a long time, and hope we'll see the solution. I would like to check with the Minister what are the concerns did he hear from the retailers and Chamber of Commerce follow the publication of this roadmap, apart from the minimum living wage, and what he's going to do to address it?
I have spoken to Chamber of Commerce. I don't recall them raising any issues with me. They were consulted throughout the development of the retail roadmap. If I'm mistaken, but I don't recall them in the last few weeks raising any issues with me.
One of the issues that was raised in the public domain by retailers and various business people is to creating PR agency to enhance the retail, which retailers will be expected to contribute. After paying the tax, the rates and the other levies, does the Minister rethink this part, or he had positive feedback from most of the retail space?
Okay, and again, this speaks to the people haven't read the document perspective. So, officer has written in my notes here, there is not one reference to business owners paying for a PR company in the retail roadmap. This is inaccurate. There is an action to be delivered by the town team, which is to look into what funding would be required for them to promote the town beyond the destination marketing that Visit Jersey does for our island to attract tourists. If funding was sought, it would need to have a business case put to the Minister or the parish to consider.
Final supplementary, Deputy Aye.
Thank you, sir. The Minister mentioned that he intends to help retailers. Will the Minister revise shop opening hours to include all retail units being able to open on Boxing Day, one of the busiest high street sales days of the year, to aid local retailers? Thank you, sir.
That's absolutely something that I would be pleased to consider, and it is referenced, not specifically Boxing Day, but opening hours, regulation around opening hours is referenced in the retail roadmap as something that we'd be happy to do to make it wider. I know in the last few years, I believe when the Chief Minister was Economic Development Minister, I think it was in the last term rather than this term, my memory's failing me, we revised regulations around Sunday openings to make it easier to open on Sundays. And I'm pleased, again, to liberalise that further if that's something that would be preferred and required.
Right, we come to question 4 that Deputy Ward will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Given the reliance of the hospitality industry on staff with registered status, will the Chief Minister advise whether the registered classification remains appropriate in the current economic climate, and if any consideration is being given to waiving the associated £53.80 application fee for each registered staff member, and if not, why not?
So with the permission of Deputy Ward, Deputy Else will take this role in the capacity of Assistant Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir, and I'd like to thank the Deputy for allowing me to answer this question. Yes, I can confirm that the registered classification remains appropriate as part of the overall population controls for the island. There are currently no plans to waive the fee for registered workers. These fees are currently used to fund skills training to local industries, including hospitality. Improving productivity and improving skills in our local businesses is a vital part of our future economy programme, and I strongly support the work of this Skills Jersey team. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Yes, sir. My business is currently in the process of hiring a new member of staff. Over the past 3 weeks, 2 local interviewees turned up drunk, and we've had 2 fraudsters apply for the job. We've had 60 off-island inquiries. Does the Minister not agree that the licence fee is effectively a tax on jobs when it's virtually impossible for any hospitality business to find entitled staff? Is this just not another unnecessary cost imposed by government to the detriment of small businesses of this island?
Thank you, sir. I will say that I don't agree with that. The registered fees are currently used to fund Skills Jersey, and Skills Jersey receives £300,000 each year specifically from these fees. I will also make the point, sir, that these fees were originally introduced in 2013 and they weren't increased for 4 years. In that time, in 2017, it was announced that they would go up to 50%. So £50, not 50%. So the current rate of 53.80 represents a significantly lower increase when compared to our RPI over the last 8 years. Thank you, sir.
Well, we come to question 5, that Deputy Reniff will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain what steps she is taking to ensure that spending on the new hospital facilities programme adheres to best practice for major capital projects and represents good value for the taxpayer?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I thank Deputy for his question. Sir, as a major project, which is a defined term, the new healthcare facilities programme is required to comply with the requirements of the Public Finance Manual. This includes adherence to the Corporate Portfolio Management Office's delivery frameworks for major strategic and other projects. These robust governance structures are designed to ensure that spending on the programme aligns with best practice and delivers good value for the taxpayer. There is a Treasury Finance business partner embedded in the project, and the project team meets regularly with Treasury officials. While Treasury monitors compliance with these requirements, the programme is also subject to regular review by internal audit. Sir, as members will remember, a phased approach to delivery is being used, which will ensure affordability for the taxpayer at every stage. As Treasury Minister, I've been kept updated on the programme's progress, including meetings with the Minister for Health and Social Services and other key ministers. This involvement ensures that financial oversight, strategic direction and value for money are continuously prioritised throughout the delivery of this essential infrastructure. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Deputy.
Yes, sir. Is the Minister satisfied that the outline business case, which provides the framework for government spending on the hospital, is robust and of the required standard?
Sir, the outline business case, I believe, follows the principle of the Green Book, and it will shortly be followed. There is already a strategic outline case which meets Green Book standards. There is the outline case, and it will very shortly, following the procurement exercise, be followed by a full business case which will set out the full details of the project.
So could I ask whether I could get an answer to the question of is she satisfied that the outline business case meets the required standard? I don't.
Sir, I have no reason to believe it doesn't meet the required standard. It follows Green Book principles, I believe.
Deputy Alex Curtis.
Thank you, sir. And following announcements by the Health Minister to restructure the island's health system to, paraphrase, create a standalone department which operates independently, will the Treasury Minister advise how she has been involved in the financial assurances that the proposed new healthcare facilities will also work efficiently and effectively for that operating model?
Sir, I'm sorry, I don't believe that has been formally announced, and that's something that will be considered as that whole programme is considered and taken forward. Thank you.
Supplementary question, Deputy.
Prior to announcement, I am aware the Health Minister has spoken to the media to an extent on this. Has the Treasury Minister been involved in conversations regarding this, and so has she had an early influence in ensuring that these plans do align to good governance over facilities as well as the healthcare service?
So I think the funding for the new healthcare facilities is a different matter from anything else that's happening within health. The hospital will have to follow, as I've said, the structures and procedures for a major project, and that will not change regardless of what happens in the wider health department. Thank you.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. Would the Treasury Minister advise if she has seen the total full cost for the healthcare facilities which are planned to build across 3 sites? I
think this is revisiting a budget debate. So we know we have a budget of 710 million, and whatever happens, the programme must stay within that budget. Thank you.
Sir, I asked not about specific budget. I asked if the Treasury Minister has seen the overall number for. I'm not asking what's the number, but does she know the overall number for cost for all healthcare facility programme?
Again, sir, the overall cost is the number in the budget. I have not seen a breakdown of that I could. I personally, I'm sure some of my officials will have seen that though.
Supplemental question, Deputy Governor.
Absolutely. If I understood what we have in budget, it's the cost for the next 4 years. We're all aware that the healthcare facilities over 3 sites over there, Gloucester Street and planned healthcare visit will take longer than 4 years. Would Treasury Minister would know what estimated cost for the islands beyond the 4 years we could expect? I'm not asking the number, if she's aware.
I think that's really a question for the Health Minister. We have a budget to build the facilities, to build the new hospital at Overdale, and then to make meaningful progress with St Saviour's in Kensington Place. The team are working on that, and I think further detail is really a matter for the Health Minister.
Final supplementary, Deputy Renouf.
Yes, sir. The Health Minister in the forward to his ministerial plan says that he will create a single central fund to manage all health-related finances. Presumably this does include the new hospital. Therefore, the question remains, to what extent has it been discussed that under these new arrangements, financial governance of the new hospital will step outside to this new board? Has that been considered? Is it being discussed in government?
Sir, that will of course be fully discussed in government, but I think the cost of the hospital, I think the Deputy referred to services. I think there is a distinction between a budget to provide services and to provide what happens inside the hospital, and a budget to build the building within which that happens. And the two will be kept and monitored separately. I have no doubt of that. Thank you.
We come to question 6 that Deputy Wilson will ask of the Minister for Education and Lifelong Learning. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response to written question 212-2024, will the Minister advise whether he has reviewed the responses to the Children and Young People's Survey, and if so, what conclusions he has reached in relation to the use of smartphone and social media, and what actions will he be taking to protect children from the harms associated with this technology?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Deputy for her question. So, the Statistics Jersey, I was trying to avoid Stats Jersey, survey, as mentioned in the question, was undertaken between the 7th, 18th of October 2024, years 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12. Stats Jersey are aiming to publish the final report in the spring of this year. Their website lists an intended date of publication in March. Because the results are not yet published, neither I nor the Minister for Children and Families, who answered the written question 212-24, have reviewed the responses yet.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Well, we will await the review. But in the meantime, there is a growing body of evidence and certainly a lot of content in the media about the important public health issues that are arising as a result of smartphone use. And can he tell us whether or not he is alert to this and minded or has previously had conversations with the Safeguarding Partnership Board and the Minister for Health on addressing the public health and safeguarding issues that are so prominent in this arena?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and I'm very cognizant of the issues. I can speak for schools, sir, because I think there's an important point to be made here. Schools across our island are actually led the way in, if you like, putting the genie back in the bottle when it comes to mobile phones by not allowing mobile phones in the classroom or in schools. There's some range in which they do that, but schools best know their children. So the respite from mobile phones and social media really happens in schools. And I remind the Deputy that children spend 15% of their year in schools and 85% out of school. In terms of the Safeguarding Partnership Board, it's not been a specific item on the agenda. It's an interesting one, and certainly we'll raise that. And as a health issue, yes, there does need to be some joined up thinking. What I will say, sir, is that schools can only do so much in school time. We can't be parenting children at home. But yes, I would support any action taken to protect children from the bad effects of devices. So, thank you.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. How does the Minister ensure safeguarding for all children on school sites when some children bring unrestricted smartphones to school?
Thank you, sir. So as I've mentioned, schools have policies across our estate now of not allowing phones in schools. One school in particular, I can give an example because we visited and spoke to the children. We do actually visit schools quite often, sir. Told us very carefully how they have initiated what one could call a complete ban. Well, I don't like that word because I think it's very negative. So children simply don't have phones in schools. And the best way of safeguarding against those issues is simply not to use them. One of the issues was that they had to buy more footballs. Well, I was quite happy to fund that. So.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward.
No, thank you, sir.
Deputy Dublé.
Thank you, sir. I think it's clear that more research is needed into this, and would the Minister agree that there needs to be some guidelines perhaps from public health that's based on evidence that parents and schools can actually understand what safe levels of usage are and what a safe way of using these smartphones? Would the Minister seek to obtain these guidelines and this clarity on what that research is?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, I believe they already exist as well. Some work has already happened on that. A document was produced for schools in terms of safe use of mobile phones recently. I was actually trying to look it up, but I can't find it in my documents, but I can get that to the Deputy, sir, and to the Assembly, actually. But yes, I agree. In terms of a public health issue, I think one of the things to ensure is that as I mentioned, sir, there is a genie that's out the bottle, and to control social media is very, very difficult. And I think education, working with parents, is one of the most difficult things. Sometimes as a parent, it's really difficult to say no. But I think that's what we need to try and support, and I agree with the Deputy that this issue needs to be taken on board. I will reiterate, sir, and I would say it would be nice at some point in this Assembly if members were to recognise the work that has gone on in schools, to recognise the support that teachers have given to put that genie back in the bottle, and the work they do in saying no to children when sometimes parents are really struggling to do that. I think that does need to be recognised at times.
Supplemental question, Deputy Dublé.
Thank you, sir. I absolutely echo what the Deputy says about the excellent job that our teachers are doing. Could he comment then on specific examples, for example, children who might have autism or ADHD and their neurodivergence means that exposure to screens can be extremely harmful, and experts are actually recommending complete abstinence in some of those cases. And how will the Deputy ensure that the curriculum can still be delivered to children whose healthcare, their doctors have recommended that they do not access screens at all?
Yeah, thank you, sir. And it's nice to speak to someone who is an ex-teacher and use the word differentiation, because one of the things that we should be doing is ensuring that young people in a classroom are able to access in the best possible way for them. And I am very confident, sir, that teachers will address those specific issues. Depending on the level of need, particularly if a child has a record of need, that should be recorded very carefully on that record of need, and certainly so also funding accompanies that. But also, sir, within the special educational needs register and that recognition within schools, those things should be recorded. We have a balance, and I can remember, I won't say how many years ago, when IT was the be-all and end-all in schools, and we used to battle for the computer room. And I think we've gone much further along, and I think we are at a stage where we have to think about screen time, the effects of that, and have the best use of information technology to deliver education for our young people and support them, but not do the harms that are becoming more obvious as we go into that world of IT.
Deputy Jean, then final supplementary, Deputy Wilson. No other questions, Deputy Jean.
Thank you, sir. And of course, the harmful effects of screen time has been spoken about, but also, as we've seen recently, with the rowing back of fact-checking, ethics, and any moral understanding around social media and the oligarchs that are taking over that space. What will the Minister be supporting the schools in being able to give the tools that our youngsters, but quite frankly also adults, would need to understand when a fact is a fact and when rubbish is rubbish.
So I'm not sure what power I have as Education Minister to take on the oligarchs, but I'll give it a go. I do agree with the Deputy, and that I think what we need to do is we need to be very careful of what we're looking at here. I agree about social media and those social media channels, which I share the concerns about the lack of fact-checking. But IT in schools is not simply used as social media. That is a separate issue. The delivery of education using very well thought through, very specific and very well designed pieces of information technology can enhance the curriculum, and we've got to get that balance right. I don't think social media outlets are particularly useful in any form of education. But things such as simulation packages, use of data loggers in science, for example, which are remarkable pieces of equipment, the access to multimedia to open up the whole world of literature and information is useful, and it's about that skill and that balancing of those two things. But in terms of what we can do with social media, that is a real serious issue. What schools have done so is simply take the mobile phones out of schools, which I think is the simplest, perhaps the way to do it. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Chair.
Yes, sir. And something's just popped into my head to think about a supplementary question on this, but maybe the Minister could look into the great work that GREF does around political education and the work that states members do when we go into schools, that we ourselves could also talk to youngsters about the worry on social media and that way, especially around politics, is manipulated through social media, and that's something that we could ourselves, states members, do when we do go into schools and we do talk about our work there.
Yes, thank you, sir. And I absolutely agree with the Deputy. And I thank members from across the Assembly for their work with schools, because I know there's a huge amount of that goes on. I certainly have been myself. I've got to say, every time I've been in school, which are numerous occasions last year, and we've talked to groups of young people, the use of social media and mobile phones comes up because I ask them the question and we start those discussions. I think we need to recognise that there is a growing awareness amongst young people themselves about the issues that they face. And so there is an open door there for us to support young people. How we talk about the validity of information and the validity of sources of information is a very interesting thing. And I think it's something that probably is addressed in some subjects, certainly subjects that look at RS and psychology, for example, look at the validity of information. But yes, I would agree that's a really good thing that we could do as states members. It's not easy, but perhaps with the Deputy and with the CPA, we could produce a document, if you like, a lesson, so that members could take in and use, and that might be a really constructive thing to come from this discussion. Thanks.
Final supplementary, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the Minister for his account. I think there is a danger that we constantly engaged in describing what is, and I wonder if the Minister would be prepared, when he's got the information available to him, to make a specific statement about the interventions he will deliver, specifically as the Education Minister, to lead and direct the issues associated, or the issues that come out of the findings of the review that's been done, and will he commit to put in a framework around that to monitor the effectiveness of the interventions that he intends to put in place?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, that's not difficult to agree with, because I think there are so many interventions that schools are already putting in. I would invite the Deputy to come in and perhaps talk to one of the schools with me. That would be a really constructive thing to do. In terms of the report, yes, of course, we'll take on board the information from important reviews of young people. But yes, absolutely. I think we do need to look really carefully about how we're addressing these issues with young people to get the balance between the unfettered use of social media and mobile phones, but also the education piece, which is to say, you know, when you're 18 or 17 and we're not controlling whether you can look at your phone or whether you're at home and we're not controlling from schools when you look at your phone what is safe around its usage. It does happen in schools already. It does happen in many, many years. We were told that by a group of Year 9s, myself and Deputy Alves, who said to us, yes, we probably know more about it than you. So it was a really interesting conversation, and I would encourage coming to school. That would be a really useful thing to do. But yes, if there are interventions, and I can make a statement, of course. I will also say, if you look back at my answers to questions on the 11th of November and the 11th of June last year, I have covered this topic quite extensively in this Assembly. Thank you, sir.
Very well, we now come to question 7. The Deputy Doublé will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain why Jersey's home birth service has been suspended, advise what actions are being undertaken to reinstate the service, and when this service is expected to recommence?
Minister.
Sir, I wonder if the Deputy would allow me to hand this matter over to the Assistant Minister with responsibility for women's health. Thank you.
Yes, very well.
Thank you, sir. The Health Minister and Assistant Health Ministers very much regret the temporary pause to the home birthing system service. However, because we do not have enough trained midwives, we have been advised by the Director of Midwifery and Nursing that the service has to cease temporarily. We have an obligation, sir, to support her expert professional opinion. This is to ensure that our maternity service is safe for our mums. There will be no exceptions. We have a duty of care, and all our mothers and their babies are precious. The plan is for 40 local midwives to be trained in home births by a UK company who are to come over to Jersey to undertake this training in April/May 2025. Unfortunately, it cannot be sooner due to the training team having prior commitments. Concurrently, a review of the home birthing service is also taking place, with the outcome due by the end of June at the earliest. The plan is to reintroduce the home birthing service when all the staff have been appropriately trained, any recommendations of the review have been implemented, and it is deemed safe to do so. In the meantime, all women have been offered care and support for the delivery of their babies within the maternity unit at the General Hospital. Women can use the midwife-led delivery suites, both with operational birthing pools. They can bring in their duvets, any items to personalise the space, and can return home as soon after the birth as it is safe. Finally, sir, I would like to reiterate to members and the public that the decisions being made are clinically led, prioritising women on this island and their safety. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Assistant Minister. The main purpose of this question is to assist with communication with members of the public. I note that the website currently states it's one sentence stating that home births are not possible currently. Could the Assistant Minister commit to updating that website to ensure that all of the information that she has just outlined, and more detail if possible, including some photos of the new facilities at the hospital and details on how women can make it more home-like, and critically information on when the service will be back up and running, that is provided publicly on the website as soon as possible?
I'm very happy to provide that information, sir. Thank you so much.
Deputy Balash.
So, bearing in mind that there are 46 midwives in the department, of which 5 are fully trained in home birthing, would the Assistant Minister be prepared to consider reinstating the home birth service for the benefit of those who wish to use it, subject, of course, to the availability of midwives and safety considerations while the internal review is being carried out?
So it is with regret, but I have spoken to the Director of Midwifery and Nursing and the interim chief nurse and the nurse who's come over with the change team, who is also a midwife, and they say, unfortunately, we can make no exceptions The trouble is, sir, that if we send people, trained midwives, out to look after a home birth, it then may compromise the running of the maternity unit, because we have to run that maternity unit 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and it is with regret that currently we can make no exceptions. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Valet.
Would the Assistant Minister agree that during the last 18 months or so, ad hoc arrangements have been made for home birthing?
Thank you, sir. I think I understand that one more midwife has retired or gone on to other work, sir, and so we are unable to provide the service. It has been teetering on the edge during the whole of 2024. One day it may have been on, the next day it was not on, and that was not fair for people expecting they might be able to have a home delivery and then being last minute told. But I can assure the Deputy that any mother who is due to give birth was told, they were been since last June, they have been given this information, sir, that they cannot be guaranteed a home delivery.
I have Deputies Miles, Gardner, Southern, Wilson, then final supplementary. No further questions. Deputy Miles.
Thank you, sir. What advice has the board given over the safety of our maternity services in general?
I thank the Deputy for her question. There has been a very large review of our maternity services, and 127 recommendations were made, of which I think we've now completed 87. The whole of the midwifery unit, the maternity unit has been refurbished, and it is now, I would say, as safe as it possibly can be. So, thank you.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. When did the board alert the Minister that there was a problem with maternity services?
Thank you for the question, Deputy. I don't think it was the board.
Through the chair, please.
Sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. The review, the maternity review, was undertaken by the government, sir.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you. When the minister assistant minister first became aware about safety concern for home births.
Sir, I thank the Deputy for her question. I first knew about this last October, sir, but the midwife, the director of midwifery, was very clear that she had made contact with all the mothers who were due to have any delivery. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Gardner.
Just to thank you very much for the questions for the Assistant Minister. Just to clarify, if in the previous answer I've heard that the people made aware about concerns in June, does it mean that between June and October officers tried to sort it out without notifying the Minister? And if yes, what actions were taken to ensure that the home births can continue safely?
Thank you, sir. Operational matters within the hospital are not up to politicians, sir, and I was made aware in October. Thank you.
Deputy Sutton.
Yes, sir. Is the Assistant Minister in position to state which, how and why the company chosen was chosen?
Thank you, sir. This is again a matter for the Director of Midwifery and Nursing, but I believe it's a very highly thought of training service, sir, and it's very important for our midwives. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton.
Could the Assistant Minister outline for members how and why this company was chosen?
Thank you, sir. I have to repeat that it was down to the Director of Midwifery and Nursing. Thank you.
Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister explain why we've got to a situation where the recruitment of midwives with this level of skill and competence has fallen to such levels? given the considerable focus on maternity services over the last 12, 18 months?
Thank you, sir. I think it is as a result of the review that these matters have come to light, and I think we have also had the retirement of some very experienced midwives. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister then provide some detail about how she intends to increase the number of midwives, not just through training and development, but what's the wider recruitment plan for this?
Thank you, sir, but I do think the maternity unit is fully staffed at present. Thank you, sir.
Final supplementary. I'm sorry, I'd already called last questions. Final supplementary, Deputy Dubé.
Thank you, sir. Given the Assistant Minister has just stated that the unit is fully staffed, could she explain, is it a rota issue that midwives can't also go out to home births? That doesn't really seem to add up, and further explanation would be helpful.
Thank you, sir. It is a matter of training for our midwives that's key. They have to be trained in home births, and it has to be current training. And that is the reason, sir, that the home birthing has had to cease at the moment. Thank you, sir.
Very well, we come now to question 8. The Deputy Osif will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister explain how the government departments are implementing budget amendments aimed at reducing cost of living pressures and confirm timeline for delivery? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'm not aware of any amendments to the budget that were adopted by the Assembly that specifically aimed to reduce the cost of living pressures. Nonetheless, any amendments that were adopted will be reflected in heads of expenditure in 2025 and in departmental business plans as appropriate. One of the measures in the proposed budget was the freeze on alcohol and fuel duty, and this has already been implemented. Waste charges have also been deferred until 2027. We are also continuing the plan to transition towards a living wage with a support package for businesses and charities, and that work is being led by the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, sir. Apologies if the Minister is the budget amendments, in other words, the changes to the budget, and maybe that wasn't part of made clear in the question. Obviously, the reason why the question is being asked is that inflation, and does the Minister share the view that given the fact that over the last 2.5 years, inflation in Jersey has risen by nearly 60% versus the UK and 45%, that this is basically meaning that on a budget of £1 billion, she's lost the ability of about £158 million. I'm trying to ask the Minister to agree or otherwise the importance of rising inflation continuing as the FPP concerned, and whether she as Treasury Minister will be focusing on this issue based upon the budget concerns that were raised in this Assembly before Christmas.
Thank you, sir. In that case, I think the Deputy's question was rather cryptic, and if he'd perhaps mentioned inflation, it would have been easier to answer. Of course, we care about inflation, but the Deputy will also know that there is a limit to what there's a limit to what we can do about inflation when so much of it comes from off island. Inflation is falling. We have seen that. September inflation was 3%, so it is starting to slow down. Inflation in the UK is falling, broadly in line with forecasts, and we are waiting to see if that will translate to Jersey. Of course, prices are still higher, following a period of high inflation, and we are aware of that. But pensions, benefits and tax allowances have all been uprated by, I believe, by RPI to protect islanders who rely on those benefits. While earnings have lagged over a period of time, they are also now starting to catch up, and 2024 saw positive growth in real earnings of 1.3%. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Dubé.
Thank you, sir. I've previously asked questions about the cost of living for specific groups that may be more vulnerable to cost of living pressures, namely single-parent families and pensioner households. And there was a commitment to go to the cost of living ministerial group and come forward with some measures to help these groups. Can the Minister advise whether that work, what stage that work is at, please?
Minister.
So the cost of living group, I think, last met in October, where we discussed transition to living wage. The group was meant to meet in December, but that meeting had to be cancelled due to budget plans and absences, and the group will next meet in January, and I'm sure that will be on the agenda then.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Would the Minister provide an update to States members on the considerations of those issues, please?
So I'm not necessarily sure that sits with me. I think that really sits with the Minister for Social Security, if she's interested in specific groups. But I'm sure an update can be given in due course.
Final supplementary, Deputy Joseph.
So I said in my supplementary that cost of living equals inflation, and the cost of living in Jersey has risen by 60% versus the UK 45%. That indicates, does the Minister agree that that indicates that there is a domestic inflationary issue that's maybe caused by the issues and having to be paid for out of public funds by rising all these pensions and other things at a higher rate of inflation? If the Minister hasn't had a meeting about inflation since October, does she not think actually this is a massive issue of public importance, and would she actually take an opportunity of meeting with people such as myself who are concerned about the divergence of these two figures? We have a cost of living crisis, wouldn't she agree?
So, sorry, I've slightly lost my train of thought. I'm not quite sure what period the Deputy... Yes, clearly we have had a period of high inflation, but as I have said, inflation is coming down, which is a good thing. Government here has a limited number of levers it can pull as regards inflation, which he is well aware of. But what I said was that the cost of living group, which had met in October, that is a different thing from whatever Treasury may choose to do with its economists and with the wider Council of Ministers about dealing with inflation as a concept. There are very many ways and very many impacts on inflation, and as I say, the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development is working on the plan to support businesses. The Minister for Social Security, I'm quite sure, is very well aware of impacts of the cost of living on groups in this island, and we are keeping a very close eye on it. Thank you, sir.
Well, question 9, the Deputy Gardner will ask of the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you. Will the Chief Minister advise what work is currently taking place or planned to reorganise the civil service, what departments will be affected, the expected outcomes and the timeline for this work?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. As we stressed in both the CSP and the budget debates, this government is committed to curbing the growth in public spending, and one of the ways we're doing that is by some right-sizing, some reorganisation of the public sector without affecting essential frontline services. The reorganisation, restructuring is aimed at grade 11 and above, and mainly at the reviewing the senior management levels right across the public sector. So this is essential because the number of jobs, so the headcount in the public sector, has risen by in the region of 2,500 in the last 5 years. In 2025, so all the 2025 budget includes 15 million of non-frontline payroll savings. So that's how it will be reflected. Savings across the workforce and departments, and departments, I should say, all of the departments are developing their own measures to achieve what's needed. So basically, we've said to every single department, have a good look at your structures to make sure you're not overstaffed, to make sure you're appropriately staffed. So, and this isn't going to be a one-off. This is a sort of housekeeping that any government needs to maintain. We always need to be monitoring our headcount, so to make sure our public sector is appropriately sized and effective.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, and thank you for the Chief Minister for the answer. I do believe that we always need to look at what's happening it feels that the civil servants going through the restructure from 2017 without stopping and evaluating what's happened. We had one communication department, now we have all communication officers gone back to the departments. I looked at the current chart that published on the government website, and I was surprised to see that the chart hasn't been updated till September, and at least 4 out of 9 chief officers don't work anymore for the government of that positions. For the transparency and understanding of the States Assembly and the public, would the Chief Minister present clear vision for the restructure of the civil service?
Well, so I'm not sure how much clearer we can be. I'll make sure that the organisation chart, which I haven't seen myself, is updated on the website. But we've asked each and every department to look at their staffing structures and headcount to make sure they're appropriately sized. I think that's a clear instruction from us. That's being led by the Chief Executive Officer and the executive leadership team. We're not planning a root and branch restructure of the public sector. We're simply doing what any good organisation should do and monitoring it on a regular basis to make sure it's appropriately sized, sir.
Deputy Renouf.
Yes, sir. The Chief Minister has just said that the government is not planning a root and branch reorganisation of the civil service, but we've just heard, published in the last few days, the Health Minister's plans to substantially reorganise the Health Department, including transferring functions out of government to a new board and so on. So at least in one department, there is a significant restructuring, it seems to me. Is he prepared to rule out any further restructurings of this kind, of this nature, within the organisation of the civil service, not relating to redundancies?
So I'm not prepared to rule anything in or out because I believe an organisation of this size needs always to be flexible and needs to be able to respond to circumstances as and when they appear. So in relation to the health service, has always been the Health Minister's intention to combine, to put quite a disparate portfolio together in one place, sir, and perhaps give it a more autonomy in focusing on the delivery of all health and health-aligned services. A department, sir, the health department, I think it's been possibly misrepresented in the media because greater autonomy to focus on health is not the same as being removed from government. It cannot be removed from government. It's funded by the taxpayer. It's managed by a team of ministers and assistant ministers who report to the Council of Ministers and ultimately to this Assembly. So the health function will always be part of the government, but I support the Deputy and the Deputy Binet and the Minister and the Assistant Minister's move to bring it more together to create a more collaborative and effective health service.
Supplemental question, Deputy Renouf.
Yes, sir. Well, let me come at it from the other angle. Can the Chief Minister assure us then that there are currently no discussions about reorganisation of the major departments in government that currently exist, despite the fact that many chief officers have left?
There are ongoing discussions, and there will be, I hope, through the course of this government and future governments, continuous ongoing discussions and monitoring of staff levels and staff numbers throughout the public sector in every area of the public sector. There is ongoing discussions at senior management level always about how we might make sure we continue to deliver in the most productive way. As I said at the start, sir, the public sector in the last 5 years has grown by over 2,500 headcount, sir. That's unsustainable, unaffordable, sir, and this government will stem that growth and put it back to a size that we need.
Deputy Southern, then Deputy Joseph and Deputy Jeune, then final supplementary. No further questions. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. What specific measures does the Chief Minister have in place to ensure that frontline services are not damaged by these changes in staffing?
Well, first of all, sir, in relation to this, frontline services are exempt, so we haven't applied recruitment freeze to all the frontline services. We are going to be reviewing, States Employment Board are going to be reviewing that. What we have put in place is a process where each and every new position has to be approved by the Chief Executive's office, so we can monitor what's going on a regular basis. But actually, the original plan is not so much, whilst we're looking to save some money on payroll costs with senior management levels, we want to go further than that. We want to reprioritise. So once we reach those savings, where we're making savings, we want to put that money into frontline services. We know that health, police and other areas are going to potentially need increases in budgets, but we don't want that to be extra expenditure. We want to deliver that support to those frontline services by making savings in other areas.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
The question was, what specific measures does the Minister have in place? Could the Minister give an example of how, despite staffing changes, services will maintain delivery?
Well, so I thought I did give a specific answer insofar as that frontline services are excluded from the recruitment freeze. So if they need more staff, so they can employ following a process. I'm not sure unless there's something I'm missing from the Deputy's question. I thought that's quite specific. Frontline services are excluded from the recruitment freeze.
Could I just emphasise then, all frontline services will remain unaffected? Is that a statement he would prepare to back up?
Oh, I will allow that, but I think the Minister has actually answered the question, because your first question was what's being done to preserve frontline services, and the frontline services are not subject to the freeze, so the Chief Minister has said. But if he wishes to answer the supplemental question you've asked, Deputy, it's open to him.
I'm not sure. It's a good question, sir, because we need reassurance on frontline services. I'm not sure I can add any more than that, sir, other than the whole object behind the reorganisation to make sure our public sector is right-sized. It's not just about making payroll savings. It's about redirecting money that's not well spent on payroll into areas that need it, such as frontline services.
Well, Deputy Joseph.
Thank you, sir. Well, my question is in relation to two issues which have came to my attention over Christmas and New Year. We're aware of, the Chief Minister has explained, we've heard other questions about the recruitment problems within, for example, frontline services, education and health. The Chief Minister has also explained that he's wanting to do a ban on consultants. I wonder if the Chief Minister could assuage the concerns of the two constituents I've spoken to over Christmas and New Year that are both engaged in providing consultancy services, local consultancies. They provide consultancy services because the staff at the hospital and teaching can't get the staff, so they provide local consultancy. But as a result of the ban on consultants, they can't do their consultancy to help the schools and etc. I wonder whether the Chief Minister is aware of such unintended consequences. If so, would he do something about it? If not, now he's heard about it, will he do something?
So we are aware of the consequences of, it's referred to as a consultancy ban, but it's not a total ban. It is departments, when wanting to bring in consultants now, have to make a strong case, and again, can apply to the Chief Executive for that. Some consultants are allowed to come in, some are essential, especially where managed services, for example, in digital areas, and where it's needed, they are allowed. But we are aware that it is impacting upon some local consultant businesses. We have made, figures will be out a little bit in the next month or two, but the figures at the end of the third quarter last year showed a significant drop in consultancy spend from somewhere in the region of 90 million to 60 million, which is a good start. And we want to continue along those lines. I'd like to get into a place where when we do need consultants, we source as much of that expertise from the local market, where we can, in relation to the deputies responsible. Of course, recognising that some expertise we need is just not available on Ireland. But I hear what he's saying, and I know it's having an impact on some small consultancy firms here, sir. But once we get things straightened out, once we get that reliance, that dependence, that over-dependence on bringing consultants under control, sir, I hope we can start to go back into the local markets and grant business to our local firms.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
I'm grateful for the assuagement of concern, but does the Chief Minister agree that in saying, and I understand that cost of living, budgets need to be cut and we need to get value for money, but he's explained that he understands, he says that reducing consultancy down from 90 to 60 million is a good thing. But is it a good thing, I asked the Chief Minister, when you've got schools and health services that are affected by a ban that's now got red tape that has to go right up to the Chief Executive to get permission to approve a local contractor that's providing local services to schools and other frontline services, but can't because of this ban? It's a mixed message. I understand the difficulty, but it's a mixed message. Will he be careful how he explains it?
No, it's a fair question, and I'm not aware where the reduction in use of consultants or managed services or temporary staff, and under the bracket, is having a detrimental impact, is causing any major problems. And like I said, that some departments have become over-reliant, over-dependent. I mean, the deputy and I, we go back a long time. We've always had a battle against consultancy in recent times, and we've seen the use of consultants from when I started in the States in '99, where consultants were used, very rarely, to it being almost a fait accompli. When you ask for something to be done, we bring consultants in. That's a culture that has to stop in relation to local firms who have provided excellent service to us when we need it, but there are also circumstances where firms had consultants in place for a number of years. And that's a culture we're trying to change. And the message to local firms is we will try and work with them with their expertise as much as we can, but our duty is to the taxpayer and making sure that our expenditure is appropriate and in alignment with what we need, sir.
Deputy Joan, I've already called last question, Deputy Danielle. Deputy Joan.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I was thrown by the Chief Minister saying when he started in the States, when I was still at school, so I've got a lot to learn from him. So could the Chief Minister explain what he means by making the government an appropriate size when he answered in his first question, when the first answer was asked, and appropriate in comparison to what?
Well, sir, it struck myself and fellow ministers that an increase in 2,500 employees over a 5-year period seemed to be excessive. And so we decided we needed to have a look at that. And what we've discovered is that we were overstaffed in senior management levels right across the public sector. So what we're trying to do is to reorganise that and reduce senior management levels to an appropriate size, to a size that will deliver the best value for money, is productive without compromising the service delivery and without compromising frontline services, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Chair.
Yes, thank you, sir. And I think those are the two words that in your answer, the Chief Minister answered about still having that productivity and service delivery in all departments, not necessarily just frontline, but those important services behind the scenes to deliver. And does the Minister feel that the public understand that there is this balance to be had to ensure that they are see that there won't be any delays to to essential productivity or services, because unfortunately still to the public, the government is seen as very slow in its delivery of many services or promises and commitments that it has made, and how will the Minister ensure that these will continue, that there is a timeline that is seen appropriate to the public, even though there has been this cutback to his words, appropriate size?
I think the public quite rightly expect the very best service we can offer. We haven't always delivered that in the past. The public certainly expect from those who have shared their views with me that they feel our public sector, and we do have an excellent public sector. I won't criticise the public sector or the people that work in it, but it has got too big, slightly unwieldy, and the public expect we spend their money appropriately. We deliver a public sector that's appropriate, that's nimble, sir, and able to deliver more quickly, and that's what we're working to do. We're not there yet, sir. There's a long way to go. This government will do its very best to point the ship in the right direction, and I hope future governments will keep moving. So, and it's important that future governments do not ever let happen again what's happened before, where we took our eye off the ball and we allowed exponential growth in the headcount of the public sector that we're now having to resolve, sir. So once we get it back to a level, sir, which is commensurate with the needs of the island, so we hope we can keep it that way.
Final supplementary, Deputy Gardner.
Absolutely, thank you. I would like to ask Chief Minister if he remembers the Public Accounts Committee and Controller and Auditor General back in 2022 when the Chief Minister was Deputy Chief Minister and accepted recommendations that any further restructure or reorganizations or organizational change, regardless of the name, should be presented business case, evaluation of the situation, what expected outcome, and how much it will cost. It was clear recommendation. It was accepted by the government that Chief Minister was Deputy Chief Minister. Now, has the Chief Minister been presented with the changes for the Health and Community Services Department, which now calls Health and Care Jersey, and with SIPES? Because at least the two departments who has more than half budget are not recruiting permanent top staff, who have interims, because they're going through restructure. So the simple question is, if the Chief Minister has been presented with the business case, which clearly stating the expected outcomes of this restructure.
Chief Minister.
I don't specifically remember the recommendation of the CNAG back in 2022, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so that's not surprising. I don't recall seeing a specific business plan from Children's Minister. He's not there at the moment, or Health on this, because these are areas of work in progress. And I've said before, the reorganisation of the public sector, we're not working to a specific business plan. We're working to the principle, making sure it's right-sized, making sure it's more affordable, and making sure it's delivering the services we need with the right number of headcount. Now, we don't need to get every single department producing business plans specifically around their headcount. We'll be publishing the business plans for the departments as promised later this month, the general ones, but in relation to the headcounts, the size of the payroll, we'll continue to monitor that, as any good organisation should do.
Well, we come now to question 10. The Deputy Wilson will ask also the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Following recent incidents in St Clement and St Saviour, will the Chief Minister advise what actions, if any, the government is taking to ensure the safety of the gas network and to address any current and potential future risks to islanders?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, of course, public safety is paramount. Every reported incident receives an immediate response as a priority and is investigated by the Fire and Rescue Service, working in conjunction with Island Energy. Residents are evacuated without delay, as they were in the two recent incidents. Ministers met the new Chief Executive of Ireland Energy before Christmas and had constructive discussions. And since the new chief executive has taken over, we've seen a marked improvement with their communication, both with the government, with officials, and with the public. Safety of the network was and is and remains a main issue, and the chief executive confirmed that IEG are accelerating its renewal programme and doubling their investment in the gas infrastructure. This as well as following the UK best practice on protocols on disconnections. So they've carried out a thorough review. We're in more regular and direct contact with the management of IEG now, sir, and they too recognise with government the need to provide greater reassurance to the public moving forward. Council of Ministers receives regular updates, another one during 2 weeks, and the Chief Executive is committed to a briefing for States members, which we will organise in the near future. In addition to the island energy work, sir, the Infrastructure and Environment Department has undertaken its own assessment of drains and tunnels throughout the island, so with over 1,000 measurements taken in the past 2 years, and we will continue this monitoring programme, so to reduce the risk of further gas leaks or certainly an early warning system. I'm sorry this is taking long, sir. I wonder if I may have leave
we're over 2 minutes against an allowance of 1 minute 30 seconds.
I understood, sir, but it's such an important issue. I wonder.
Well,
Okay.
I think members would say all issues are important issues, Chief Minister. I'm not sure that's a judgment. Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister believe there are more accidents waiting to happen? And does he now think this is a matter of urgency for government to intervene and get some independent assurance to assure islanders that all steps that he's just outlined that are being taken are the right steps?
Well, sir, the government has been aware this is absolute top priority since a terrible, tragic incident at Haute-de-Mont. The previous government took the lead in moving things forward to put us on a much firmer footing in relation to how not only we respond, but how we perhaps look to improve things so we can take preemptive action wherever possible. And we are working to provide greater assurance to ensure that things are as safe as they possibly can be. Jersey Gas are, as I said, they've doubled their investment. The new management team are placing this firmly as a top priority. One of the consequences, as we've seen when infrastructure utility companies are privatised, we don't see the investment in the infrastructure of the network that we should do. And here is a prime example, and I'm pleased to say they're taking that far more seriously now. The Emergencies Council also receives regular updates at every meeting we have, has also led work to update the gas legislation, giving the government more powers, including to request information from the gas company to reflect more modern practices, and this is due to be lodged imminently. So we're doing everything we can. Of course, in any sphere of life, we can never guarantee that accidents won't happen, but we're doing everything in our power to reduce the risk.
I have a number of members who wish now to ask questions in relation to this. At the moment, I have noted down interest from Deputies Joseph Jeune, Renef Tadier, Conatable St Saviour and Deputy Gardner. That's simply too many to allow a reasonable time for each question that's on the... but I do remind members that the Chief Minister is answering questions without notice, and any difficult questions that are left over can be asked at that point. I will therefore allow another 4 questions, Deputies Joseph Jeune, Renef and Tadier. But then I have to draw the line, I'm afraid, and move on from there, and then a final supplementary. Deputy Joseph.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful for my colleague in St Clement asking this question, and the Chief Minister said he remembers us being here since 1999. Well, he will recall then that this has been a regular refrain of mine in relation to the problems that Jersey Gas had, and I hate I don't like saying it, but I worry that there is not another accident waiting to happen. Nothing that I've heard from the Chief Minister is going to help my constituencies and those parishioners of St Clement and across the island.
I have to impose a discipline on asking questions as
Fine.
well.
Okay.
Actually, would you just ask the question?
Yes, sir. Will he recognise the absolute importance of people understanding that we're dealing with a Jersey gas with liquid LPG, propane and butane versus LNG, that's natural gas in the UK, and there are significant problems. This is a legacy system, and does he really think that it's appropriate for more investment in a legacy system because it's effectively a past system? Does he not agree, actually, that we need to deal with Jersey gas in the round and take some courageous decisions before there's another accident?
Well, sir, no, I don't fully subscribe to that. We've spoken over many years about how we might manage the gas situation, what that looks like, how that relates to our carbon neutral roadmap, whether we're going to continue with the use of any form of fossil fuels and such like into the future. Of course, it's not that easy, sir. There are many households and businesses and government buildings that rely on the supply of gas for various reasons. I think as I said before, we are seeing an accelerated programme of expenditure and renewal of the gas infrastructure, which should provide some reassurance to islanders. The infrastructure department have I believe over 1,000 monitors deployed, or have taken over 1,000 measurements and continue to do so to monitor the potential for leaks. And so we're updating the legislation as well to give the government more power, which is outdated with hindsight. That should have been done a long time ago. There is no simple solution. And no government can give guarantees that there won't be further incidents or accidents, not just with gas, but with any emergency in the island. But this government will continue to do everything it possibly can to reduce the risks and provide greater confidence to the islands. And I'm not surprised that
Sorry,
their
Chief Minister, I have
confidence
to ask you to
is shaken, sir, by recent incidents. But I want to reiterate, so we're doing everything in our power to reduce the risk.
Supplemental question.
So we're not going to adjust this on a matter of such massive public importance in question time. I understand your frustration. And indeed, the Chief Minister is not really going to be able to answer questions fulsome. He did say, sir, in his question that he's going to get a briefing from the Chief Executive on this. I would encourage the Chief Minister in my final supplementary, would he actually accelerate that, and let's have a discussion, because some members have been raising concerns about this, and I'm afraid words are simply not going to be enough when there's another fatality that could happen, and it's a real risk. And could he bring forward that so that we can have an urgent debate, either openly or privately, to discuss these issues? It's really serious. Does he not agree?
Simple answer to that is yes, sir. The Chief Executive will be holding an open forum with States members as soon as possible, so we can have full and frank discussion. We get that arranged.
Chief Minister, Deputy Jean.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister's listed an impressive amount of changes since the new CEO came on board. But isn't this a concern that it just takes one person to create confidence or not in the system? Does the Chief Minister believe that there needs to be firm action by the government to assure the Jersey public that they're getting an appropriate and safe gas service? And what could these be?
Well, sir, as I stated in my earlier answer, I believe the most important work for Jersey Gas is to accelerate the renewal, the updating of the gas infrastructure. And that's what they're doing, and we've seen a significant improvement in the commitment to that and to the resources deployed by Jersey Gas since the new management team have taken over. The government has deployed monitoring units throughout the network to provide an extra layer of safety. We're updating the law to give the government more power, and we're doing everything we can, sir, to reduce the risk. I look forward to the forum with States members, because we'll have officials there and the senior management team from IEG, sir, to explain in more detail what that looks like and to provide greater reassurance to members of the public, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Jean.
No, sir.
Deputy Reniff.
Yes, sir. In most jurisdictions, the major utilities are regulated. Does the Chief Minister believe that Island Energy should be regulated, and this would give us the levers that we need and the assurance that we need to deliver a safe and effective service?
I think that's a matter for further debate, certainly not ruling out regulation of Jersey Gas. In the first instance, we're going to be strengthening the law, the legislation, to give the government more power, sir. And let's see what that looks like before we discuss regulation further. But what I am sure of, and I think members agree, is we need to see this improvement to the gas infrastructure, this increased expenditure, this work to continue to be accelerated, sir, so we can be sure that our gas network is safe.
Supplemental question, Deputy Rep.
Yes, sir. I'm not quite sure if we're dancing on a pinhead here, but when he talks about bringing forward further laws and powers, could he give us any detail on what those powers are? Because that sounds like the beginning of regulation at the very least.
Chief Minister.
Well, for example, in certain instances, we can't even request information from the gas company. The Jersey Gas Law, which is looked after by the infrastructure minister, is badly out of date, and it needs updating to give the government more powers. They might be regulatory powers, but the government needs to be sure that it has the power and the authority to hold the gas company to account and to force it to take actions more quickly than it has done in the past, and that's what we're looking at. Whether we do that as legislation or we need to go into regulation is another matter, sir.
Deputy Tellier.
So let's put this in context. Jersey Gas put their prices up 12% last year, 7.5% they're going up this year, for what many people in the island think is an unsafe service. And so I get contacted every time there's an incident. It wasn't just St Clement's and Leggett. There was an incident on the 5th of December on the border of Trinity and St Helier. I get contacted by relatives of the Haut-de-Mont disaster asking, when are we going to get closure? In June last year and in November last year, will we get any closure? Can the Minister say that he will take this issue very seriously? It is a matter of life and death. It is about people feeling safe in their own homes. And will he actually say whether he considers that an independent inspection of the gas infrastructure in Jersey is something that he could back and something that needs to be done urgently?
Chief Minister.
Well, sir, I can't reiterate the seriousness of this. The government takes it seriously. It's discussed at every emergencies council meeting, and I'm not sure what more can be done. We've been working closely with the Health and Safety Inspectorate, who are an independent, reviewing it independently, and we'll have further discussions on whether we need a complete independent review of the gas network. But we have infrastructure officials and Jersey Gas have worked closely together, again with the fire and rescue services, but in relation to the network, that is being thoroughly reviewed and updated. But I undertake to continue with those discussions and take whatever action we need to provide that reassurance. I mean, it's not so simple. In a simple world, we might say, well, let's just eliminate the use of gas altogether. But of course, that's not easy or straightforward, and that would take time. And of course, you've got hospitality industry rely on gas to run their businesses, and then there's a capacity of transferring all of that business to our electricity grid, which at the moment could take many years to achieve. So it's a complex issue. I'd like to reassure members that we're doing everything we can, not only to reassure the public, but to provide greater powers for the government and a safer and a secure network, sir, with the caveat that we can never rule out incidents happening across any sphere of the public realm.
Supplemental question, Deputy Tellier.
So I pick up on the point that he said it isn't easy and it's not straightforward, and that's probably exactly why the government needs a policy and a strategy in this area. Can the Minister confirm, given the fact he said that environmentally and from a safety point of view, probably the lifespan of gas is limited, rather than investing more money, either customers' money or taxpayers' money, in updating a dilapidated infrastructure which may not be long-term viable, will he bring forward a policy and strategy in short order and bring it to this Assembly?
The policy and the strategy on gas is a work in progress, and we'll bring that as soon as it's ready. Don't mistake necessarily the work on updating the gas network with the fact that it could be here forever, or it could expand. We know it's a challenging business circumstance for them, because we're seeing a reduction in the use of gas. More people are coming off it and switching to other sources of power. But either way, whatever we do, gas will be with us for a number of years, and it's important, whether it's with us for another year or another 10 years, that the existing network needs to be repaired and updated regardless of that. So that's why we're pushing that work forward.
Final supplementary, Deputy Wilson.
Thank you, sir. I think certainly this question was asked because of the considerable emphasis that people are placing on their individual and also corporate and business safety. One of the questions as a final supplementary I want to ask is, does the Chief Minister have any intelligence as to where there are key areas of risk that the Chief Executive and the Infrastructure Department are focused on in particular, so as to give some confidence that there is some proactive activity going on to manage the risk rather than waiting for incidents to happen?
Yes, sir, we do that. Those areas have been identified by the measurements we're taking, and most measurements have been well within safe levels, but we do occasionally see a spike here and there, and the measurements we're doing are enabling the Jersey Gas and the authorities to get to it before it does become an issue. Also, in light of the public concern, the terrible tragedy we had in the recent gas leaks, the public themselves are far more aware and reporting even the most minor sort of potential smell of gas. I'm pleased that's happening, because it means we're being very, very careful, a lot more mindful, and also that we're carrying out evacuations now where there is a problem, where there might not be a risk of explosion or further thing, but we're carrying out evacuations regardless, just to make sure that public safety comes first. I'll ask, when we do the presentation with Jersey Gas and officials, I'll ask that all the detail about in relation to a question is discussed at that meeting, sir.
Very well. We come to question 11. The Deputy Renner will ask for the Minister for Sustainable Economic Development. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister detail how the £2 million route development grant allocated to Ports of Jersey from the Better Business Support Package to increase connectivity will be spent, or advise how he anticipates this being spent?
Minister.
I thank the Deputy for his question, sir. Route development is a common industry practice to support the market to identify new connectivity opportunities that ultimately underpin all parts of our economy. The support package will boost Ports of Jersey's ability to attract new airlines and secure additional new routes. This will be delivered in close partnership with Visit Jersey, with their role being to market the island to potential visitors on those routes. Any new routes will ultimately be a decision for the airlines in collaboration with Ports of Jersey. But I know Ports of Jersey share my ambition to boost the island's connectivity by increasing existing UK connectivity and exploring new European links to provide greater choice for islanders and to support our visitor economy.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Yes, sir. Could I press for information on what exactly the money will be spent on? £1 million a year is presumably not going to go on increasing staff at Ports of Jersey, or at least only a portion of it would. So what exactly will the money be spent on? Will it be handed over to Ports of Jersey to spend as they see fit? Might it be spent directly with airlines to incentivise them? Where will the money be spent?
It's absolutely to incentivise airlines to create routes to Jersey. That's what it is for. It is not to be used by Ports of Jersey for their own operations. It's not to be used for ministers to visit anywhere. It is entirely for Ports of Jersey to pass to the airlines to incentivise them to fly to Jersey.
Deputy.
Yeah, I'd like to drill down further into the Minister's welcome comments about trying to engage European airlines, or rather routes to Europe, is probably more accurate. Will the Minister confirm that he will be looking specifically to either bring back or get new lines perhaps to regional airports such as Rennes, Saint-Brieuc, or even to one of the Paris airports to make sure that islanders have the opportunity to fly to the mainland?
Sir, the Deputy asks a very interesting question, because the Better Business Support Package is there to improve productivity throughout the island's economy. And so from that perspective, purely from that perspective, it would be the larger routes that you would be seeking to achieve, because that's where you get the bigger impact on the island economy. But there are still regional benefits to having regional routes, but the payoff economically is less than, so quite simply, a route to Rennes is potentially less economically appreciable than a route to Paris or to Frankfurt, with larger aircraft, more visitors coming to the island. But that, in my mind, doesn't close down the many other benefits that may come from a route, for example, to Rennes. And so, yes, Ports of Jersey do speak with airlines such as Blue Islands, and also smaller airlines. We've had interest from a small French airline called Finistère that is interested in flying routes from Brittany to Jersey. And potentially, I've also mentioned to them, it might be useful from an Alderney perspective as well to create a Jersey Alderney route. But these are very small planes, just kind of 9-seater planes, so the economic impact is much less than a Boeing 737 to Frankfurt. And so that balance has to be taken into account, but it is something that is definitely being discussed.
And I guess the supplementary, I think we're allowed to name airlines, but we know that, for example, there are existing low-budget airlines that operate to the UK, which also they operate from the UK to France, to Rennes, to Toulouse, etc. So does the Minister accept that even if regional airports might be limited in terms of demand, there is a possibility then for connectivity once you get to the mainland?
The Deputy is absolutely correct, and one of my critiques of the way previous Rennes routes had been marketed was that the benefit in terms of Rennes as a hub for travelling to the rest of France via TGV wasn't something that islanders were being told about. So in my view, Rennes isn't just a lovely city to visit, which it is, it's also a fantastic hub for islanders to travel through the rest of France and indeed Europe. But I don't believe that messaging ever came across properly in previous marketing elements. So that's something which would need to be looked at as well.
Right, I have Deputy Jean, Ozef, Conetarbus and Brillard, Deputy Gardner. No further questions until the final supplementary. Deputy Jean.
Thank you, sir. I think we've seen this before, for example, in the route that to Amsterdam, that then unfortunately had to be abandoned. How does the Minister know that these new routes will be more successful, and what went wrong with the Amsterdam route?
I thank the Deputy for a very interesting question. It is 90 seconds is almost certainly not enough time to explain elements around the Amsterdam route particularly, except that Schiphol Airport, for number one, has capped the amount of airline movements because of their own carbon targets, etc., or carbon rules. As a result, experimental routes are less likely to be maintained. And so that, for instance, is one reason why that route didn't continue beyond the first year. We must appreciate commercial airlines only operate where there is profit to be gained. And they are talking about 14-15% returns that they expect on any routes. So if Jersey is to succeed in having sustainable air routes over many years, they have to deliver that to the airlines. And that's where the Better Business Support Package comes in, because it provides that incentive for the airlines to try it. But if an airline sees that it's not getting the return it wants, it will cut any link. Airlines have, and I mean this in the most neutral way possible, they have no loyalty to any route. And I have no issue with that. It's, that's where the smaller regional airlines such as Blue Islands come in, because they can be asked to undertake routes which perhaps don't provide the return they need, but would need to be subsidised. Commercial airlines, commerce wins.
Supplemental question.
Yes, and thank you, sir. And so to make sure that any of these new routes that islanders see and then hopefully will be sustained rather than quickly folded, how will the Minister ensure that Visit Jersey makes the impact it needs to in those countries to ensure that visitors come here? So it's not just about us going to those places, but very much more it's about those people coming here. And what is has the Minister put any emphasis on measurements and for impact for Visit Jersey to make those to make that successful?
The Deputy's absolutely correct, and I met recently with Ports of Jersey and Visit Jersey in the same meeting to highlight the fact that it is them working together that will make this succeed. There are lessons to be learned from previous routes, etc., and we want to make sure that those lessons are learned. This is something which will happen over time as well. You know, we are here at the beginning of 2024. The first routes that we would see being established in terms of large commercial airlines flying to Jersey will be 2027. It won't be 2025 because the cycle of these things takes longer. It can take up to 3 years to get certain routes in there. That also gives time to ensure those KPIs are met or are designed and then met. And such KPIs would be around the number of visitors coming to Jersey, the sustainability of those routes, etc. But yes, there will be performance indicators, but there is time to design those properly, along with the choice of routes. You know, this isn't a situation where Jersey gets to pick towns. You know, the airlines lead on this. They tell us which routes they are willing to try. We don't get to pick a city and just say we want a route there, unless we want to pay for it in its entirety.
Deputy Joseph.
Thank you, sir. The tenacity of the Chief Minister, of the Sustainable Economic Development Minister, is laudable in his earlier remarks about retailers and going out to get people. Is he prepared in this route development to be as bold as past economic development ministers, recalling that a previous incumbent was also criticised and challenged about route networks, but they ended up getting EasyJet to Jersey, which is now our largest airline by a country mile. And is he going to be bold and brassy and go and talk to Wizz Air and TUI Airlines? Not these, the little ones are important, but it is the big airlines, such as these big operators, the operators of the future, that he needs to go. And will he give me an encouragement that he's going to learn the lessons of the past and being bold can deliver big issues for Jersey?
Sir, I won't be going anywhere, as the media have recently commented. They don't want to see this money spent on me travelling anywhere. So I won't be travelling anywhere to enter those negotiations. Apparently, that's not what ministers are meant to do. But Ports of Jersey will be, and Ports of Jersey will speak to all airlines. They are already primed for attending the appropriate conferences at which these deals are done, and obviously the work in between. So yes, Ports of Jersey will be speaking to a range of airlines on these matters, but British Airways and EasyJet remain the two biggest airlines serving these islands, and they will also be people that Ports of Jersey engages with. This is something that Ports of Jersey are leading on, backed, as we were saying in response to Deputy Jean's question, by Visit Jersey in terms of marketing to make sure that these routes work into the future.
Supplemental question?
Very quickly, sir. I would just invite the Minister to reconsider whether or not he shouldn't go on these things. I wouldn't worry about what the media would say if I were him, sir. If the Minister turns up to a big organisation such as EasyJet or Wizz Air or TUI, then they know that Jersey means business, and we want their business, and we have to go for it. And could he please consider not listening to the media and the short-term headline grabbers about ministerial trips, because they've worked in the past, and if you want somebody to go with them, we've done it before, we can do it again, and these airlines are not serving Jersey, and they can in the future. Does he not agree?
Absolutely, I do agree. And I will travel wherever is necessary for Jersey on any element of the economy where it is important for a minister to attend in order to get a deal over a line or to encourage any investment in the island, no matter what form that takes.
Conrad Harbison-Brown.
Thank you, sir. Would the
Minister advise members whether any of the Better Business Support package will be allocated towards Visit Jersey, given that the, picking up from Deputy Jean's question, given that the Schiphol route was abandoned through lack of passengers, I presume. Thank you, sir.
I thank the Constable for his question. The Schiphol route, it was load factors, but it only lasted 1 year. Normally a trial period would be 3 years, and things such as I understand, the carbon restrictions on Schiphol Airport were the sort of thing that were really forcing the airline to choose, you know, should they carry on with a new experimental route or just focus on the routes that they know work today. From that perspective, Visit Jersey are absolutely engaged. Visit Jersey they are receiving £2 million a year from the Better Business Support package over those 2 years to market Jersey from that route destination perspective. From a visitor destination perspective to do the destination marketing. They are working alongside Ports of Jersey as well on these specific routes that Ports of Jersey managed to get. They will be doing that marketing, so yes.
Supplemental question, Commentator?
Thank you, sir. And picking up on Deputy Ozef's point with regard to Wizz Air. Wizz Air is a strong Central Europe Hungarian-based airline. Can we not do more with them? Central Europe is a vast visitor pool which we should be attracting. Will the Minister commit to looking in that direction as well?
Sir, I am not the expert, and I hazard a guess that neither is the Constable in terms of getting airline investment in the island in terms of routes. Ports of Jersey are leading on that, but the information that they have given me just very, very recently was that France and Germany look like the most likely areas for routes. So in that sense, Central Europe is absolutely on there. And it's possible that the Netherlands would fit too. But I think France and Germany are likely to be the areas that they look at most.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking into the annual reports and accounts for the Ports of Jersey. Ports of Jersey turnover in 2023, because this is the latest, is 50.5 million. An increase of 5 million from 2022. Operating profit is 7.2 million in 23 compared to 1.8 million in 2022. And we know that 2024 was much more successful year. Connectivity is one of their top priorities. Now, would the Minister consider if one of the importance within the Ports of Jersey business plan should be maintaining and increasing connectivity when we do have this healthy position in their accounts?
So connectivity is absolutely one of Ports of Jersey's key focuses, and they use existing revenue to maintain that connectivity as well. This Better Business Support package is to help them look elsewhere. And also, I think it's really important to remember, why was Ports of Jersey set up? Ports of Jersey was set up to enable it to be able to invest in the port and the airport, particularly those two areas, which is hundreds of millions of pounds worth of investment. The idea is that by incorporating Ports of Jersey, that investment could be undertaken from its own balance sheet and therefore take away the requirement for the government and for the states of Jersey to find those hundreds of millions themselves through pure revenue taxation. Every time we ask Ports of Jersey to spend more money somewhere else, they are not able to invest that in the infrastructure of our ports and our airports. And from my perspective, the port and the airport are absolutely vital for the long-term economic growth of this island. We need to invest in them. We need to invest in them not for the next 10 years, we need to invest in them for the next 50 years. Because we need to make sure that the next generation have a harbour that can do more than just freight and passenger deliveries. It needs to be an economic enabler for the whole island. Ports can't do that if every time they make a bit of money, they are asked to spend it somewhere else. They need to use that money to invest in the ports and the airports for the future.
Thank you for...
Supplementary.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the answer. Would the Minister indicate how he can demonstrate, or how ports needs to demonstrate value for money for the £1 million that would be allocated? what's the specific outcomes this £1 million would deliver to the public? Specific, not in general terms. What's the expectations?
The expectation, sir, is new air routes from the UK and Europe. It's very simple, sir.
Very well. Final supplementary, Deputy Renner.
Thank you, sir. So funding for Better Business is only in place for 2 years at £1 million a year. Is there a danger that the routes will survive only whilst there is an incentive in place? If so, is he prepared to commit now that is he considering at least the possibility that he might extend this support beyond the Better Business package in order to maintain connectivity, the routes that may be generated, or does he regard this as a one-off, not to be repeated, it stops at 2 years?
Thank you, and again, a very interesting question. And I do feel that we all, including myself, could probably learn a lot about understanding how the airline industry works. We already incentivise the London Heathrow route. We already incentivise routes to Jersey. Heathrow exists as a route to Jersey because the government helped, or through Ports of Jersey, helped pay for that route to be implemented. So it's really important that we understand that this sort of incentivisation is standard industry practice. It's how we get Jersey connected to the rest of Europe. And the Deputy's absolutely right to raise the idea that this may need to be ongoing support. It's quite possible that that is the case. Thank you, sir.
Come to question 12. Deputy Wall will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy Wall.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response to oral question 241/2024, will the Minister advise whether the total cost for scaffolding at the Lido d'Arc Départ remains at £14,996.50 as a one-off sum, or is this now a monthly charge?
Thank you, sir, and I thank the Deputy for his question. So I find myself in the regrettable position where I still do not currently have the final sum to give an accurate answer to the Deputy. In December, sir, I gave, in good faith, a figure of £14,996.50 as a fixed charge for the scaffold on the western wall of the Lido. Providing timely and accurate information to the Assembly is paramount, and that is why I am today withdrawing the figure for the Lido scaffolding I gave in December and committing to revert to members with a full and accurate position as soon as possible. It has become clear to me, sir, during the last week that the original figure is not correct. The fixed cost of the scaffolding is significantly higher, in part to additional works that were required to meet health and safety requirements. Sir, I offer my sincere apologies to members and the Deputy. At this time, I'm still working with officers to establish the full facts behind the cost of the scaffolding. Once I have this, I will share it with the Deputy and members. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Wall.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate the Minister's response to that question. Can the Minister advise when his department is likely to publish how the £500,000 budget is being spent or has been spent on the Arc Départ pool?
Sir, work continues at the pool, sir, as the Deputy is aware, and good progress is being made. Clearly, it's weather dependent. So in response to the Deputy's email to me on the 10th of January, I asked the Deputy if he had information that was contrary to my original answer to share that with me, and I'll repeat that request again today, sir. We will publish the information as soon as it's available. Thank you.
Very well, that brings an end to that question. There are a number of questions still to ask. We would, if we continued, finish at 12:59. So I now must ask members if they wish to the lunch and adjournment or to continue.
I propose adjournment, sir.
Adjournment is proposed. Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:50.